Check this out right here, guys. I propagated my plant that's back here. Hello everyone and welcome back to another YouTube video here on this channel. That's right, we got another tier list video. And today we're gonna be ranking every single guitar pedal company. By every single, I mean all of the main ones. This is mostly just gonna be the big dogs, the major important guitar pedal companies. And when it comes to the parameters for putting together this tier list, I'll be taking into account obviously how good the pedals that the company makes are, also how cool they look, because I think the actual construction of a guitar pedal is extremely important. You obviously want the pedal to sound really good, but you want it to look really cool too if you're putting it on your pedal board. I'll also be thinking about how creative their pedals are and just the overall brand as a whole. So without any further ado, let's start making this tier list. Alright, ladies and gents, so the very first pedal company that we have here today is Fulltone. Now, I'm aware of the Fulltone controversy thing that happened, but disregarding that, I will say that Fulltone makes some pretty good pedals. The Fulltone OCD being kind of their main one. I've heard a lot of people say that that's their favorite overdrive pedal ever. I will say that the pedals do usually look pretty ugly. They're not really the best artwork on there. They are designed well, like construction-wise, but overall, I think for now, I'm going to put Fulltone at B tier. Alright, so next up on the list, we have TC Electronic. Some of their popular ones are the Hall of Fame, or the flashback delay. I know people also like the Ditto looper pedal that they make, and they also make some much more affordable pedal options as well, like the Third Dimension Chorus. And overall, their stuff is really good quality, especially like the Hall of Fame, really great pedal. So I think for TC Electronic, we're gonna go A tier. Alright, next we have Game Changer Audio, and Game Changer, I believe, is a boutique manufacturer. Alright, so I talk about boutique pedal manufacturers quite a bit in this video, but like, what does that even mean? If a pedal manufacturer is boutique, they're generally going to hand make their pedals, and a lot of times they're going to focus on having cool, unique features, and also put a lot more focus into the artwork and stuff like that. Basically the opposite of making everything in a factory and like mass producing stuff. But they make some really funky, very creative pedals. They have that one plasma distortion pedal, and I think they just came out with this like motorized pedal thing. I really respect that they get very creative and come up with some new and innovative ideas for their pedals. I'm not really a huge fan of the way the pedals look. I feel like they're a little bit too like sterile looking for me. Construction and everything is great, but I think just the overall design, I'm like, eh. So I think I'm gonna put them at B. Alright, next up on the list here is one that I'm sure everybody knows, JHS pedals. Besides just seeming like a really cool guy with a super down-to-earth personality, Josh Scott has made some amazing pedals that just everybody in the pedal community loves. Obviously the Morning Glory, the Pack Rat is like every rat pedal mixed into one, same thing with the Muffaletta, it's like every muff mixed into one. Also the 424 gain stage was something that one of the pedal companies was gonna have to do because the Tascam preamp distortion thing was just getting so popular, but I'm glad that JHS did it, even if the pedal's like, you know, $250 or something. But yeah, JHS just makes undisputedly incredible pedals, and I think it'd be hard not to put them at S tier. So next up on the list is Danelectro. Now Danelectro is obviously more known for their guitars, but they also used to make, I'm not sure if they still do, but the little line of like cheapo fab guitar effects pedals. This line of pedals was introduced in 2005, and then production stopped in around 2011 or 2012, but they're still fairly common on the used market, and you can find them for like 20 or 30 bucks. Just made in like the cheapest plastic housing, but some of the effects actually work really well. I think they were only like 20, 30 bucks or something. So just a great way to get into pedals for beginners. And I know there's a lot of people who have those Danelectro fab pedals as their first pedals. That being said, comparatively to the other names that I have on the list here, I think Danelectro is going to have to go in C tier. Okay, so next up here we have Earthquaker devices. I think their most notable pedal would probably be the Earthquaker plumes, but they also have a lot of other really good pedals as well. And one of the things that I absolutely have to give them praise for, the artwork on their pedals is so cool. They really have the pedal design formula down to a science. So huge props to their design team. And besides that, the pedals just sound great, so I think we're going A tier. Okay, so next up here we have Digitech, and this also is going to include DoD because it's basically the same thing. But I'll start off by saying that those old DoD pedals were really good, affordable, beginner, entry-level pedals. But Digitech also makes the drop pedal, which is like one of the best-selling pedals ever. I have played around with it a little bit, and it is really cool. And also the actual design of all their pedals just looks really great. So honestly, I think I'm gonna have to put Digitech at A too. My back is hurting. We need to take a stretch break. Okay, we're good to go. So this next one tends to be a pretty polarizing brand, and that is Behringer. And I'll be honest, I am a pretty big Behringer fan. I'm sure if you've watched this channel before, you've seen me use the Behringer XM8500. It's like a $20 microphone, sounds basically indistinguishable from an SM58. I also use a Behringer audio interface, and I also have had a couple of Behringer pedals. And I don't know how they do it, but honestly, sound-wise, the pedals sound really great. I remember watching actually a JHS video where he was talking about how the circuits in Behringer pedals are essentially identical to the pedals that they are trying to emulate. But obviously, the main glaring problem with Behringer is the design construction. It is not good at all. They're just like the cheapest, crappiest plastic casing ever. You can hear how cheap it is. It creaks when you press it, which obviously is how they're able to make them like $30, which I respect, but I think I'm gonna have to put them in B tier. Okay, next up here is a company that you may have not heard of, but they're called Old Blood Noise Endeavors. Now, the reason I put them on this list is because they're actually based in Oklahoma. So I gotta show love to the fellow Oklahomans out there. But when I discovered their pedals, I was actually really blown away with how cool the pedal casings are. The artwork is always just really awesome, and it's kind of the same vibe as Earthquaker, where they have just kind of like a formula, and they have a style where you look at their pedals and you're like, oh yeah, that's them. They also do get really creative and make a lot of pedals that are pretty unique. So I think I'm gonna put them at A tier. All right, this is one of the ones that I'm sure we've all been waiting for. One of the big dogs on the block. Boss pedals. I mean, what can I even say here? These are the pedals. So many people's first pedals were either the SD1 or the DS1. The DS1 was basically my first pedal, my first distortion pedal at least. The Boss pedal design and construction and their whole formula is just kind of like the epitome of a pedal company. I don't know what it is, and if some psychology person can explain this to me out there, there's something so satisfying about having two different pedals that are the same construction essentially, but they have different colors for different pedals that have different functions. I look at this color and I immediately know, okay, it's an SD1. I look at this color and I immediately know, okay, it's a compressor, or maybe it's like a BD2 or something. It just makes you want to collect all the colors, you know? Also, Boss pedals are just relatively affordable and pretty accessible to the majority of people as well. You can find a DS1 or an SD1 probably out there used for like 30, 40 bucks. So yeah, you already know, S tier. Alright, next up here is Hologram. They make the Chroma console and they make like the Microcosm, I think, which are just pedals that are completely in their own lane. To be fair, a lot of people do use the Hologram stuff for more like synth work and like experimental music rather than just running their guitars through them, which obviously people do that too, but their pedals are just so unique and so different. So I think it'd honestly be a crime to not put them at A tier. Alright, so now we have another big dog in the pedal manufacturing industry, Electro-Harmonix. One of the most iconic pedal manufacturers of all time. Of course, they're the most well known for the Big Muff and all the 7 billion variations of that pedal that they have out there, but they've also made a lot of other incredible pedals like the Memory Man and the Small Clone. The Holy Grail's a great pedal, the Soul Food Overdrive, tons of stuff. It doesn't make sense to put them anywhere else other than S tier. So the next pedal brand is one that's not really particularly known for their pedals. Universal Audio. They also make a bunch of guitar pedals. I will say that their pedals are very expensive, but they are very, very well made. Just really incredible construction. I will say that the design and everything, like the artwork, there's not really artwork on them, but the whole overall design of their pedals is cool, but it's not anything super crazy to me. And although they are really high quality pedals that sound good, I don't know if they'd really ever be my first choice when it comes to pedals, so I think I'm gonna have to go B tier. Alright, so next we have Walrus Audio, who are also based in Oklahoma City. A lot of pedal people in Oklahoma, but they make really awesome pedals. Stuff like their Slow Pedal and the Iron Horse Distortion, and also their Fundamental series are all pretty notable. But I think I have to say that my favorite thing about Walrus is the fact that the artwork is always so awesome. It's always extremely creative. I know they've done some that are like glow in the dark and stuff like that. The pedals also always sound really good, and they really kind of get outside of the box and try some creative things. So I really like the way that they're kind of doing their own thing, and they found a really good formula. So yeah, another A tier. Alright, so this one might be the one that triggers a few people. We have Ibanez. Most notably, they have the Tube Screamer pedal. They also have a delay and other stuff like that, but Tube Screamer is the one that everybody knows. I've messed around with Tube Screamers a little bit. I'm just not really a huge fan. And obviously, that's a personal preference thing. Maybe you're a huge fan of Tube Screamers, but it just kind of doesn't do it for me. And honestly, I think I'm gonna have to put them at C tier. Listen, the guitars they make are great. I'd put them pretty high in my guitar brands tier list. Alright, so next up, another Oklahoma manufacturer, Keeley Electronics. So Keeley makes a lot of really high quality pedals with some cool, unique built-in features. Pretty sure the Keeley compressor is like one of the best selling pedals ever. Even though the construction is really amazing, like super high quality stuff, I think they could do better with the overall design and colors and that kind of thing. But I've heard that Robert Keeley is also just a really great guy, so gotta give him points for that. I think I am gonna go A tier for Keeley, but I think it's kind of somewhere in between like a B+ and an A- tier. So next up, we got MXR. One of their most notable pedals is the Carbon Copy, as well as their phasers like the Phase 90, 95, and I think they have a Phase 100. Probably the most iconic phaser of all time. They also came out with that Rockman pedal recently, which is really cool, and all their other pedals are just overall really high quality. I will say I'm not super crazy about all of their overdrive and distortion pedals. I think they're just kind of like meh. But everything else is awesome, and they have some super iconic pedals, so we have to go A tier. We're just putting everything in A tier here, apparently. I am gonna make a small amendment though. I'm gonna bring TC Electronic down to B, but like high B tier. All right, so right here we got Bliss, and they make awesome pedals, some of my absolute favorites. They've pretty much nailed all the big criteria of design is always awesome, their artwork is super cool. Function-wise, their pedals always do really cool, unique stuff. Also, incredible build quality. They are kind of expensive, but that's something you kind of expect with pedals of this caliber. And I think it'd feel totally wrong to put them anywhere besides S tier. And finally, last, but definitely not least, is Strymon. Now, Strymon pedals are expensive for sure, but they make some of the best reverb and delay units. The Strymon Blue Sky and the El Capistan Delay are both like just incredible pedals. They also have the whole color and formula thing down to a science. If you had all the money in the world to spend on pedals and just wanted to get like the best pedals that money can buy, you would absolutely have at least 1 or 2 Strymons, so I think we have to go S tier. Alright, so this is my list right now, but I do want to move a couple things. I think I'm going to take Danelectro, put him down to D tier. I also am going to take Behringer and move him down to C tier, because I simply just can't, in good conscience, put like a plastic casing pedal up in the same ranks as like the TC Hall of Fame, and especially the Game Changer audio stuff. Other than that, though, I think I'm pretty happy with this list. Now I know I didn't put anything in F tier, and that's just because all of the pedal companies that are out there and that are known by people, that's the case because they are pretty successful and they do have some pedals that sell really well. So honestly, doing this pedal companies tier list was kind of harder than it was to do the guitar brands tier list. Oh, there's this tornado siren. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much gonna do it for me in this video here today. This is my completed guitar pedal brands tier list, and I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me in this video here today, even if you disagree with my guitar pedal opinions. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what other kind of tier list videos you want to see me do, and I will see you all in the next video.